episode of the Please Do Tell podcast. Before I even get into the newest theme for this month, which we are now in the month of May, I wanted to give you a few updates from last month. Because last month I talked a little bit about scamming and spamming. So, one of my updates is because I'm going to just get right into it with you all. I received, so if you don't know, the Please Do Tell is a registered trademark. And so I got something in the mail that said, oh, your trademark will be expiring. You need to send 1,000. They told me, yeah, I need to send them $1,090, so $1,090 to them before May 25th, 2024, or my trademark will expire. I looked at the paperwork. I said, this is okay. They typed in all the areas they had. Now, mind you, this information that they got is public, so I know how they got the information because I looked on the trademark search website and the patent and trademark office website. I'm looking through it, and it says, we have enclosed an envelope for you to return the payment to this address. It was someplace in like Washington State. I said, okay. But at the bottom of the letter, it had, like, I think Massachusetts or something. I don't know. It was two totally different states. I was like, oh, okay. All right. But it had a .com website. No, I did not go to it because, they could have easily got my information that way, too. But it was a .com when I know that patent and trademark is .gov because it's a government entity. So I thought to myself, how many people are falling for this? Like, this was pretty. It looked legit until you get to reading over. It's like, oh no, this is just public information. Okay, it had case number at the top and everything, and I just thought to myself, the desperation. It's mind blowing. And then also, the update that I got, I did receive the police report from the Texas, I'm going to say the Texas person that had my information in their car when they got pulled over. It was myself and 7 other people's information that was in that police report. Of course, they blacked it out because, I don't need to know about them anyway. But 7 other people information. I don't know how much information that he had of those people. I know he only had 2 documents of mine, but my God, I went through that this morning and I thought, Lord, you know what? It could have been a whole lot worse. But boy, if I saw him in person, would I want to flip him the bird? Because ask where he got it from. Just where did you get my information? Just where? But it doesn't matter. It's going to be handled. But that's just a couple updates. Just the scamming and the spamming continues. All right, y'all. So that was that update. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Among a lot of awarenesses this month, but I wanted to focus on mental health awareness. As a lot of you all know, or maybe if you're new here, for the last 10 years, I've done Final 48 Project, which was my labor, continues to be my labor of love with the journey of grief in the Black community. And so this month I'm always thinking about, I'm really assessing my mental health. Like, okay, and I'm one of those people that I did have to recognize that I am project based and I'm always focused, okay, well, what's next? I don't really sit back and celebrate what I've completed. I'm always thinking about what's next and how that has affected my mental health in so many different ways that I don't just bask in like, oh my gosh, that was really a great moment until I look back at pictures or someone reminds me of something, and how I have to celebrate the wins more. So I'm really going to start doing that 'cause we're really at the beginning of May. So fresh start. So this is where I want to start with the number of story times that'll be coming over the next couple of weeks for this month. I don't know if you watch Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp, but yesterday there was a new episode that premiered with Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley, over the course of the episode, he talked about his upbringing in a small town in Alabama. I believe it's called Leeds, Alabama, and how it was just absolute. He thinks that one of the best things that ever happened to him was growing up in a small town. And I can identify with that is because he talked about community and it being very tight knit, and the feeling of the village, like really tight. I mean, really honing in on the village mindset. I thought to myself, what are some things that I hear all the time when I have people ask me, like, well, how did you find your friendships? How did you find community? And I thought about something that he said, and then I thought about something that I've done from time to time with myself. Before I moved to North Carolina, I've always been in places that people have known me or I've known someone, and I've always felt safe. I've never really went anywhere by myself. That goes for elementary school, my same group of friends since elementary school, junior high, high school, and then after high school, kind of branching off by myself and found myself amongst some people that kind of were going down the wrong path. And I was starting to follow that path for a second. And I've talked to you about that in previous episodes, but also taking accountability for the role that I played in a lot of things that were going on back then. But knowing that when I decided to transfer to another 4-year university, is that I had to find community there, but it looked totally different from what it did in high school. Where in high school, I was like voted class clown. I was always joking. I would say, I was a B average student because I think I graduated, well, between an A and a B. And when I went to undergrad, I wanted to fly under the radar so tough because I felt like that character on Living Single when Sinclair went back with Overton and Kyle to their high school class reunion, and someone mistaking her for someone that they knew was just always the life of the party. And I remember that woman coming up to Sinclair. She was at the class reunion, but she came up to Sinclair and said, whew. Well, I'm paraphrasing, but she came up to her, was basically thanking her because she didn't have the energy to be that person that she was in high school. And that's how I felt when I went to the 4-year university. I didn't want to be the person that was always funny because I just thought that, like, okay, maybe I grew out of that. Maybe that was just something that I was shooting for when I was in high school, but that's not the person I wanted to be anymore. But the older I got, I still knew that a piece of that was still within me. And I speak in riddles. I speak in like movie titles or quotes. And from time to time I can be a little bit witty. So when I went to undergrad and I met these cool people that I'm still friends with today, it's not as big as the network that I had in high school. And I thought that, you know what, that's okay, because I'm not going to be here for it's not like my hometown, but I still found community there. So when I moved back to Ben Harbor after graduating, because we were clearly during the recession, and I think I told you, like, oh, what am I going to do with a history degree? Guess I'll go back and lean on to being a CNA. When I decided to move in 2008 to North Carolina, it was probably, and mind you, I was in my 20s. It wasn't even scary to me. And I'm pretty sure I told you in a previous episode is that I moved down there with $100. I moved down there with no job. It was a road trip with my sister and myself. And I got there, and what I thought was going to be a job lead was not. I found myself like, I'm here, I've signed a lease, and I'm not going back. I think some of the things that I haven't told you is what I endured that first year of me being there, with like having an eviction notice on my door because I'm only making $10 an hour as a temp. My sister fully, like all of my basics from the very beginning on a teacher's salary, came in and helped me and bought everything that was in my apartment. At the time, I had great credit. Great credit. And I was able to get like my furniture and everything on credit, which of course I eventually paid off. But it was rough. Like, it was really rough on my mental health. But at the time, I just knew that I wanted to stay there. I wanted to really go to an HBCU, and I had to fight it out. But it was the people that were around me in that first year. I should have lost my mind. And I'll have to go into a separate story time about that at another time, because it's a story time in itself. I think I told you about me about to fight on on work grounds, all of that. It was really bad. And getting to that place of finding the people that are still my forever friends and that held me down during that storm of I don't know who to trust around me. And I moved multiple times after that. I even talked to a friend from college the other day. I feel like it was yesterday. He said, I only talk to you when I call you." I said, "Now you know ain't nothing changed. You know ain't nothing changed." But he said, "You've always been the same person that you just kind of stay to yourself," which I was like, okay, yeah. He said, "You've always been a loner." I said, "No, I haven't. Have I always been a loner?" And then I got to thinking. I said, "Yes, since I was a little kid, because I think I've told you, there's an age gap between me and my siblings. Is that oftentimes I would function as an only child. So I had this wild imagination." And he said, "But you're more safe now. You're not taking risks like you used to." And I thought, why am I not? And I'm not opening up like I used to. A lot of things I'm keeping close to the chest, because from moving around so much and seeing not even the world, but I've seen parts of the world, but but living in different states, experiencing different jobs, experiencing a lot of hurt, and how hurt people really hurt people. So I thought to myself, when I'm hurt, I just stay away from people because I don't want to hurt them. But that hasn't always been the case for me. And I identify and I know that a lot of people lean on me and they call me and they say, "Hey, I need you to do this," or "I need you to do this." And I've said, I believe it was the episode back in February, is that I had to start saying yes to me more and no to others. But how difficult that's been, and how the last couple of weeks I've really been assessing that, like, you're not happy. You're not happy. What's keeping you from being happy? I'm so it's like in one breath I'm thankful that, I have a roof over my head, food, transportation. There's so many people that do not. There's also a lot of people that I've identified that are manipulating the system, that are manipulating people that are around them, and it's exhausting. And I've just decided to stay away from a lot of that. It's even been situations with people that I've interacted with that have been guests on this show, or have worked behind the scenes in like previous seasons, that have done some things that I'm like, "Lord, you're going to have to help me to forgive them." think that's probably the first time I've ever admitted that, because whenever anyone really does anything extremely foul, and then of course I'm always thinking like, well, what did I do in that situation? What did I do? What could I have done differently? Because I'll get really angry and then I'll just stay away. And then people wonder why. Well, she doesn't come around like she used to. Because if I told what you did to me, it would clear a room. So instead, I decide to get into my devotions. I have to pray about it. I may tell my mom. I may tell my sister. I may journal about it. But I know before, the one thing that's missing now in my life is just that therapy isn't consistent. And I know that that's something that I have to get back to. Like, even one of my tabs on my computer is, okay, I know I need to schedule this appointment and go back. And I think it's on the laptop. Like, yeah, I know I need to schedule an appointment and go back, because there's a lot of things that are triggering me. A lot of questions. Like, that's another reason why I don't go outside. It's like, okay, if I run into certain people, they're going to ask about a particular topic or something that I was working on. And then that's going to trigger me, and it's going to put me in a space that I'm like, I don't want to have to explain that to all these people about what happened or what I'm actually going through. And that also would lead into the not knowing who to trust, and really asking God, like, is this the person that you sent to help me, or is this the person that sent to teach me a lesson? Like, make it crystal clear for me. Which side are they on? Which side am I on at times? It's been a lot. So I had this conversation with a gentleman that I met. It was at a conference. I wasn't attending the conference, my friend was. But I was meeting my friend in Chicago and met this gentleman, and he's working on a documentary about the history of Black librarians. So I was talking to him yesterday, and then at the end of our call, he said, where are you located? Because he said, I think we met. Yeah, we met in Chicago, and then we were both presenting at the conference that I was a part of back in October that was in Florida. I walked into a session, didn't read who, I just saw the title. I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting. And I went in there, and he was one of the presenters. And so we reconnected on LinkedIn, and I was a part of the web series for the documentary. And he's doing something that I want to do and that I've been working towards doing. But it was a question of, he asked me, like, where are you located? And I told him, I said, oh, I'm in Michigan. And I did something that I normally do not do. I said, oh, but if you know about some opportunities that's like remote, or I can just be in other places, you let me know. He was like, really? Like, he started rattling off. I said, oh, all I had to do was say something. That's how that works. So ain't nobody gonna read my mind? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. But I got off of that call, and I went back to listening to, because I'm always attending like a master class, bouncing things off of the heartbeats. I was even texting my sister early this morning about some things, because there's some things that I've written down that I just have not done. Because I'm like, oh, I haven't finished this yet. I haven't finished this. But there was a masterclass that was talking about growing your podcast. I said, okay, let me sit down and just really think about this, and what am I doing, or what can I do to make this podcast better? So I put out a call on social media like, hey, what topics or stories do you want to hear from me? Excuse me. And then the spirit said, are you being yourself on this podcast? Like, are you really showing up as yourself? I said, yes, this is me all the time. But if I'm unhappy and I wasn't telling y'all that, then I'm not fully showing up as myself. the facade of like, oh yeah, everything's great. I'm just here to tell stories. And sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low. Sometimes I travel for work and sometimes I don't. So now, especially starting with this month, is more stories of what's going to get me back to the side of whole. And I know there's a lot of stories within me that I don't want to tell because I know it would hurt some people. But I also know that it's done a lot of damage to me to keep it in. And I'm trying to do better with that. So if you see me show up with some funky glasses, which I love, I have like this whole case of glasses, which you'll see coming up. I'll start wearing my funky glasses, because I've always thought like I want to have story time with my glasses and like reading from this big book, and maybe even in a rocking chair. Not sure if the rocking chair is a thing, but well, I do have a rocking chair in my garage. That's a whole nother story. But reading the story as if it was almost like, and when I pulled up today, I said, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Because I love that. Like, have your little friends come over, have your homies come over. But yeah, more stories, more stories of more intentional stories, I should say. And I said that it was really rough for me to get up and come to the studio today because it's been on my mind all day that I had to come here because I knew I was going to have to talk about something like this. So, you all, I'm going to wrap up this episode because now I want you to come back next week because I'm going to be talking about more stuff when it comes to being comfortable in my skin and letting you know more about the real, which I mean, this is real, but another side of Ronnika. And I hope you'll join me. So I'm your homegirl, Ronnika, and this is another episode of the Please Do Tell podcast. And I hope we'll see you next week.